So I've got this Yamaha cinema sound system, and it comes with these little Yamaha speakers. Now these are like the tweeters and sort of the mid-range, and then down in the darkness there is a big subwoofer. Not this thing, that's for a guitar. So yeah, it comes with these little speakers, and they are little. You see, they're tiny little things, just little tweeters, if anything. So I got these Wolfdale Diamond 9.1, which they're quite deep, not too deep, about a foot, with these curved edges, which is meant to help with the sound. But I can't have them sitting on here because that's already weighed down by the weight of the TV. So what I want to do is put them up on the wall. Now the wall is a fake wall. It's not been plastered brilliantly. It's plastered well enough. But where you see the creases, that's where there's a batten. So on each side of the TV there are battens. And there's actually one there. You can't quite see it because it's so dark in here. So what I want to do is move these speakers higher up because the TV is quite high, as you can see there. So hello. So I want the speaker to be up higher on the wall. So you've got the middle speaker, which is there, sort of where the voice comes from, and then you have the rest of the music and things coming from here. But when there's big thuds, what happens is that it sounds low down, and it shouldn't sound low down. It should sound like it's coming from the screen. So what I'm going to do is just build a couple of shelves to put these on. Now I've got various pieces of wood, leftover bits that are cut and so on, tons and tons of offcuts. I've got some other wood as well in the storage area, so just long strips. Got some shelf type wood, but I think what I'm going to do is I've got a couple of these left over. So this is an old IKEA sort of bookcase. Hang on, let me show you. I've got another one over here. So left over, see these cubes? So these are from IKEA, and what you can do is you can actually reshape this by removing parts. So what I did was I removed some parts, sort of this section here, these 6, and turned it into a desk with, some storage underneath and to the side, and that worked out really well. But I got some wood left over, so the idea would be, here's some here. So I've got a couple. They're not black. Now I would have liked black, so perhaps I'll paint them, but they're big enough. These are big enough to hold the speakers. They're about a foot, about the same as the speaker. So I think they're maybe 13 inches. Now the problem I have is the batten on the wall. I'll take this wall as an example here. Is right in the centre. So if I were to secure this to the wall to put the speaker on, to secure it to the wall, the left and right is just plasterboard, where the batten goes down the middle of the wall. So what I'll need to do is create something that will be able to stop this thing twisting. So perhaps some kind of triangle at the back, and stop it falling forward. So another triangular piece joining it, so you've got strength in all directions. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do with this. So I've got some spare wood. I say spare wood, I've got tons of spare wood. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So these are bits I've chosen. Now what do we have? These are nice solid, so I don't know what you would call them. 1x2s, maybe 2x3s. No, it's not that big. These are I think these would be 1x2s. In fact, shall I get something to measure it with? in all my junk that's everywhere, can never find anything. Here we go. There's a tape measure sort of thing. That will do it. A straight edge. Okay. Okay, it's in centimeters, and it's all right. Okay, so it's nearly 5 centimeters. Well, that means that this is equivalent of a 2-inch. Well, it used to be 2-inch until they rounded the edges when they planed it, which is lovely. Which I didn't want doing, but there you go. That's how you buy it. And it is 10 that way, so that's 4. So this is a 2x4, even though it's a bit smaller. So it's 45 by 95 mil, which is smaller than a 2x4. Anyway, so idea is this: that bolts into the wall, big chunky thing. It's going to hold all the weight, and that's going to be bolted directly into the batten behind the plaster. Then I'm going to take these ones, which are a little bit lighter. Well, I say lighter, they are physically lighter. I think they've kiln dried, so it makes the wood lighter anyway. Where these ones are treated, because this is building grade and this is, I don't know, drywall grade, whatever the difference is. One's C24, one's C16, whatever that means. Yeah, so these, so imagine this is upside down. These will go at the back, like that, to stop it going flopping left and right. And then I'm going to cut a lap joint into this bit, and then lap joint them together, so that becomes a big T joint, you see, big T, which will be holding the shelf up, but it will flex forward still. So then I've got the idea of just using some offcut of OSB to go into the T like that, just to give it stability at the front, for it to rest on, because it only needs to rest on it because it will take all of the weight in the actual thing itself. And the reason I'm going to use thin OSB is so I can still get to the wood to put the screws in, because if I used a big chunk of wood going diagonal, say like that, then I wouldn't then be able to it would actually be that way around, wouldn't it? But then I wouldn't be able to then drill into the wall, you know, screw the thing in, because the wood would be in the way, unless I'd done it on its side, maybe like that. Yeah, maybe. I've still got lots of spare wood. I could do something like that. I'm going to try it with the OSB and see how it goes. Okay, so what I've done is I've sawn it, but I haven't really done it too thin together. So you can see there's a massive chunk there, which I'm going to get off with this. There we go. Just a chisel. Just chisel it away. Chisel, chisel, chisel. Nice and flat. Try not to knock the camera again. Can you see what I'm doing here? So I've got a terrible habit of not actually filming what I'm doing. Perfect. There we go. So just need to get the high bits off. Just get the high bits off, and then it will start to smooth out, almost like a plane, you know. See, it's getting flatter and flatter, and what you want is it to be super flat, because the other piece, the other half of the lap, needs to join onto it with as much surface area as possible for the glue to stick. There we go. So there you go, from both sides. That way you try to eliminate any high bits without taking too much off. There we go. Yeah, this one was the worst cut. The other one, not so bad. It's not so far apart with the cuts. But what I'm doing here is I'm getting caught on a sticky up bit there, which is then lifting it up. We don't want that. But hopefully what you can see, I mean, this is not fine woodworking. This is just knocking something together for some speakers, you know. It's I don't have a planer. Well, I say I don't have a planer. I don't have a planer which you could I don't have a planer which I could put this on. My planer is for planks of wood, you know. So I could plane the whole surface, but I couldn't plane just this bit here. But this chisel super flat. So if you've got it down flat on here, then really all it should be doing is lifting any high bits as you go along it. So almost like a plane. Yeah? Didn't you see? It's hardly taking anything off now. It's super flat, except for this side where it's a bit higher. So what we're going to do is change directions once I finish this side. Because that side looks super flat now, and it is super smooth, trust me. So I'm going to spin back round again, and spin you back round again, and then do the other side. Now I've got this flat reference, you see, so now it's just going to get these last high bits on the other side. Now, if you really want to, you could sand it, but I think this is fine. There's a really high bit here, I think, which is what's causing a lot of problems with my chiseling. Obviously, a planer would be the best thing to use. There we go, it's got rid of all that high bit there. So you can just go along there, go along here, just get every bit off. And now we have something which is good enough. And that's all that really matters, it just needs to be good enough. And then do the same with the next one. But this one's a lot better. You see the how close together these cuts were. So it's a lot easier. And like I say, it's not fine woodworking. So that big chunk I just took off, don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt anything. This is a shelf bracket and it's going to be painted black. You're not going to see it. It just needs to be functional. That's what we're after. Something that's functional. Good way to lose weight as well. Good way to lose weight. So, just want to get one side as smooth as possible. But not take too much off. But where you can fill it a little bit higher. And then you end up with some really smooth. I mean, this is super smooth. And because it's super smooth, I can now flip it around and do the other side where it's not so super smooth and use the super smooth side as a reference. You see? Now it brings them both into line. There we go. Almost like a pencil shaver, sharpener. See, if you are catching bits, it's probably because they're sticking up, or it could be that you're not holding it flat enough. But I mean, that's pretty smooth. I've got to say that's pretty smooth. So in theory, because they're both super smooth, they should stick together like this. But that's not how they're going to go. There's going to be a T-joint. So let's do the T-joint. Okay, so there's the lines. What we're going to do is cut to those lines and hopefully, you can probably hear my extractor fan now. Hopefully it will fit. Let's find out. So, again, we just knock these off. Now I can't find my hammer, so I'm using an axe, but same thing. Catch it, but use the back of it. Okay. So get all these bits off. And then do the same again with the thing. But before we do, we can test it. Say, does it fit? And you can see it's a little bit tight. Now, the options are, actually no, that almost fits, So the options are, take a little bit off here, or take a little bit more off here. Well, I've got this set up already, so I could just take off a slice more, couldn't I? So let's take off a slice more. Slice more. Did it work? Did it work? And now, yes, look at that. It fits absolutely perfectly. Look, it sticks. So what I can do now is clean this up and then glue these two bits together. Easy peasy. Okay, so I haven't glued it. I've just dry fit it, but you can see now the concept, which is this will go into the wall, into the batten, and then this gives it its rigidity for the left and right balance. And then, with the help of some OSB, what I'll do is I'll just cut a section out so it can then go into there and screw into the side to give it even more strength. And then the bit flexing across the top, or maybe I'll do it that way round. Maybe I'll do it the long way round. Yeah, so basically this will be just secured to the bottom piece, but at the same height as the top, and that will then give the shelf, you know, rigidity going forwards, so it won't lean forwards. That's the idea. Well, you know what they say, practice makes perfect. So this time I made the cuts a lot thinner, and as you can see, it almost doesn't need any work doing to it at all. So all I'm going to do is take my sanding block. This is just out the 3D printer with some sandpaper. I'm just going to sand that down, and it's not going to need much at all, which is good. Okay, so we've got some glue. So all we need to do with the glue is just spread it around, It's a bit old, this glue. I've watered it down to make it a bit thinner, and up the sides, make sure it's everywhere. And yeah, this doesn't need any screws or nails. The glue is stronger than the wood. Everyone knows this, of course. That's why you're watching. The glue is stronger than the wood, so all we need to do is glue these bits together with enough glue to cover all of the area, and we want it all to touch, and we'll get tons of squeeze out if we've done it properly. And the reason we get tons of squeeze out is because we're squeezing all of those wood fibres together, which means that there shouldn't be any space for the actual glue in between. Just enough, just enough. Right, let me grab a couple of clamps. Okay, so I've got some clamps. So what we're going to do now is just slap these together, and you can see that they fit really well. And then I'm going to stick a clamp on the back, and I'm not measuring for square because there's nothing I can do about it. It should already be square. I squared it up when I sawed it. Yes, when I sawed it. So therefore, this should already be square. But it doesn't really matter if it's... Oh look, see all the squeeze out? That's what I said. This is what we want. We don't want it to go everywhere though. So there we go. So nice and tight. And if you get it really tight, you'll get some really good squeeze out. Hopefully I've got this in the camera and I haven't done my usual. So it's going everywhere. Oh my god, it's going everywhere. It's down the back, it's up the sides. Oh my god. Just wipe it off. Okay, so I'll leave that one to dry. And I'll do the same for this one. Now, you are meant to wait 24 hours. It does say that the glue is ready in 30 minutes. Well, it may be but it never is. God, that is a bit tight, this one. I'm going to need my hammer. I'm going to need my hammer, which is an axe. Okay, that's better. So now I can, how high is that? A little bit off, so we're also going to hammer it downwards. There we go. So now we're going to do the same again and just crank these up as tight as they will go to create, gosh, look how good that glue was. It went through an old screw hole, if you can see that. So there's definite pressure in there. If it's busting through the screw hole on the other side, yeah, it's just had an old screw in it sometime in the past, and there's enough pressure that it's all squeezed through. Anyway, let's get this other clamp on. Crappy clamps. I don't have squeezy clamps. I've got ones that you have to tighten with your hands, and these ones, let's turn you up a little bit, these ones, they don't have any grips on the handle, so you have to really use your hands to get them ones to go. Right, see you in 24 hours. Maybe half an hour. We'll see. Maybe an hour. Maybe I'll have some dinner. Okay, had my dinner. That's long enough. That'll be dry enough. I mean, this is meant to be Gorilla Glue, quick dry, 30 minutes. Saying that though, where there's big chunks of it, it's still white. But no, this is. Oh. Do you know what? This has been a couple of hours. It's still a little bit gooey on the stuff that dripped out. Anyway, but the actual, I mean, this lap, this half lap, it's tight. So I think we can be confident that it's going to be fine. Long enough. It does say on the packet half an hour dry time and 24 hours for, I don't know, secure or something like that. Hang on, let's read the packet. Let's read the packet of the Gorilla Glue. Yes. Join and clamp up for 20 to 30 minutes. Parts should fit tightly. Excessive glue to be removed, and then it says what's about 24 hours. Allow bond to dry for 24 hours. Okay, so it says clamp for half an hour. Clamp for half an hour, but allow full 24 hours for it to dry. Well, good enough. Good enough. That's all that matters. It's good enough. Okay, what we're going to do next. So, I was going to take these. Look, this is what I was thinking. I was thinking of taking these boards, cutting out a chunk there that matches this profile here, and then sticking them to the edge, but you know, higher up, because so it'd be this bit screwed into there, and so it's at a right angle with the top. And then by doing that, we can then put the shelf on, and this is sort of a support that just goes out to the front, sort of like a bracket, you know, like a bracket. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to chop off a chunk like a bracket. Okay, so I've chopped out the corners on these. This already had cuts in it, that's why it looks like I've gone over, but I haven't really. It just happens to be in the same place where I was cutting. And yeah, that's it. So easy peasy then. This sits like this, it's upside down, you know, when it's against the wall. This then slots into here, into this spot. And what I'm going to do is clamp and glue the OSB to this piece of wood. And that then gives this, and I've used the table plus my big right angle here, and I'll use the right angle to make sure that the actual back piece is in line with the table, and then I'll then glue this on, clamp it on, and maybe even put some screws in it, because it's quite thin. I mean, the glue should hold, but you know, belt and braces. There we go then. So that is perfectly lined, and this is now clamped on with glue and completely flat to the table. And this is a flat table. I know it's flat because I built it. Yeah. Okay, so do that to the other one. Wait for it to dry. Paint it. Screw it to the wall. Oh yeah, put the actual shelf on itself, of course, which is the these white pieces of wood. And that would be it. Job done. Well, I was thinking about doing screws, but then I remembered I've got a nail gun with massive staples in. So what I've done is I've stapled. You see the staples there? So there's 4 staples to give it a superior rigidity, and then the glue, obviously, to make sure this thing never comes apart. And then once it's dry, it would be that way up on the wall, and then the shelf, the leftover bit of IKEA furniture will sit on top, and I'll screw it into the back bits there, and then this front bit will then just hold it in place, and I'll glue and screw it into the back, or maybe I'll use the staple gun again. But whatever I do, it will not move. Yeah. Okay, 24 hours later. These are the worst clamps. These ones. They're cheap. You can see it's just like thin, and it's not wood, it's like thin plastic. I wonder, I could probably, because they're just screwed on, they're not even like built in or anything. I bet I could probably make some kind of wooden handle to make that easier. Whereas these other ones, especially the bigger ones like these have big handles, and they're covered in rubber, not just the plastic, so they're much easier to turn. So, but what does happen with these kind of clamps is these metal bits along here, they start to wear out. There's like little metal ridges, you probably can't see them. But the way that it works is you've got little ridges, and then the clamp moves freely, but when it bends, it hooks onto these ridges. But the ridges run out, and then the clamp starts to slide. And when that happens, the thing's useless. Now, you could sit there, I suppose, with a file and file new ridges in, and that would fix them. Okay, so that is glued. That is rock solid. It is not moving. It is absolutely stone solid, that. So as you can see, I've got staples and I glued it. So you've got the OSB glued onto real wood and then stapled through. So that's worked out really well. So what I'm going to do now is glue the boards on top across the wood there and across the wood there. And then just clamp it down and wait for that to dry. Here we go, more drying. I mean, this is what takes the time, is the drying. What you can also see is I've just marked a little line there, and I'm just going to cut that off on both of them. There's just a little bit overlap, which I should have measured at the beginning, really. So I'm going to cut that off, and then it will fit. Oh, this is old glue. So the problem with old glue is the glue glues the lid and then you can't get it off. So there we go. Oh man, I'm throwing this away after this. Throwing it away after this. This is the end of this glue. It's very old. It's very old glue. I shouldn't really be using it. It's very old, but I assume it keeps on working. You know. There we go. Ooh, ooh, ooh. There's still some in there. It's a bit blubby, it's a bit blobby, a bit dried out. But the idea is that you spread it along and just get it all over this wood. It doesn't matter if it's dripping, it doesn't matter if it gets everywhere, because it's being painted black and you're not going to see it. Don't worry. You worry too much. Just chill. Right. So now that is on there. This can go on here like that. There we go. And then just need to clamp it. So when you've got some glue on your fingers, use a bit of tissue. Use a bit of tissue. I keep using my clothes. All my clothes have got handprints of glue on. But I've got a bit of tissue in there to stop me doing that. Right, so don't let it overhang. Back over there a bit. There we go. Try to get the back bit in the centre as much as possible. And then just chuck some clamps on. Like this. There we go. And there's got a hell of a lot of squeeze out. Better get that tissue. That is a lot of squeeze out on the back. There we go. Don't want it getting on the clamps too much. And then just keep it straight and get another clamp on. There we go. More squeeze out. Oh my gosh. I used enough glue then. Now, what's happening is, as I'm securing this down, even though it is completely straight, it's standing up. There's a gap there at the bottom, if you can see it. There's a gap there, and what I need to do is find some way of holding that down so it actually sticks. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'll find a way. Okay, the solution to making it go down further at the front, which is what we want, is to bring the clamps further into this side, and that sort of leans it forward ever so slightly to make it straight, because it is straight. We know it's straight because it was done on the workbench. So what I need to do now is just put a really heavy weight on top of that, just to hold it in place until that glue dries, and that will be the shelves almost made. Just need to put a couple of screws in the actual bit that goes into the batten and then paint them. Job done. So I was a bit worried about the this piece being so thin and the glue. So when I started on to do this bracket, I could hear cracking. I didn't like that sound. So what I've done is I've just cut a little bit of, well, shouldn't have been MDF, really should have been wood, but I've done a little bit of MDF and I've glued it on both sides, and then I've screwed it in place just to hold it straight while the glue dries. Hopefully that will be strong enough that it holds it in place. We will see. It doesn't really matter, it's only there for support. But what you don't want is it to be loose, because when the speakers are vibrating, you don't want that thing shaking around. So it needs to be locked down, but it's not actually holding anything up, if you get what I mean. So because of the black walls, it's really dark in here. So I have to use a headlamp. You can see I've got a headlamp on, just so you can actually see, because the walls are black, you see, and because the walls are black, the light doesn't carry very well. Which is the whole point, isn't it? So, yeah, there they are, all shiny, 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 shiny. And, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's good enough. It's good enough. Good enough that when I turn my torch off and you're looking directly at them, they disappear. You see, that's the whole point. So I've got these huge screws here. Absolutely massive. 150mm, I think they are. So that will go through those massive pieces of wood and into the massive battens which are behind the wall. So 3 screws will be enough and secure it there forever. So I'll just drill some pilot holes and screw it through. And then I got these. £1.70. Probably more expensive than the entire project. Anyway, so these are little rubber, well, they're called door buffers, and they're for when doors hit the wall. Or for maybe when maybe cabinet doors or something, I don't know, but they're little rubber stickies. So I'm going to put these on the bottom of the speakers to make sure that the speakers don't vibrate on top of the shelves. Yeah, and one in each corner, job done. Right, here's a tip. Just a tip. Don't drill the wood while the glue's still... Don't drill the wood while the paint is still wet. Because all of the little bits of wood, the sawdust, sticks to the paint. So I've just had to wipe it off, which has then ruined the paint, then use more spray paint to cover it up. So yeah, don't be impatient like me. Okay, so I've used a garden heater, and the garden heater has dried the paint. So now, when I drill it, I won't get chips all sticking to the wood. Like that. See? Just wipe it off. Brilliant. Except, where's the end of my drill? It's inside this hole. Yes, it snapped off. So, obviously, it was maybe a bit worn out. So now I'm going to have to go find another drill bit to make the hole a little bit lower down. How irritating. Okay, using this laser, I'll be able to get the line there. You see the line? If I'm not putting a shadow on it. And the line also goes over there as well. Can you zoom in, I think? Nope. Doesn't zoom, it tilts. Okay. So the line is also there when I'm not in the shadow. Which means that I can get these at exactly the same height. So what I need to do now is drill them into the battens behind the wall and make sure they're lined up with the laser. And that should be it. Yes. Oh, and the other thing is, I didn't go and find a new drill bit. I just put the screws straight through the wood because, you know, they're self-tapping basically, so they just went straight through. It's not like you're going to break these things, is it? Well, I have to say, that was a lot harder. That was a lot harder putting them up than I imagined. It was getting through the battens at the back. Obviously, I've got no pilot hole on this side, which did crack the wood ever so slightly. And then I got a cable stuck behind the batten, and I had to take the whole thing off just to remove the cable because it was so stuck in there. And then the same over here. The camera's gone funny now. Let's see if I can get it back to normal. It's not that button. Could it be this button? That button? There. There we go. Now the camera goes where I point it. So, there we are. So we've got 2 speakers on the wall, of which I can now sit here and you can see me on the screen. And the sound now is higher than it was before. So hopefully it will sound like it's coming from the screen rather than the floor. Isn't that right, dog? Eh? What's all this noise, he says? What's all this noise?